welcome back. It's Talzi. On this channel, we like to talk about manifesting, and I also look into your specific situations with a person, a love interest, etc. with the tarot, but I integrate universal law and energy shifting through you and your identity and your focus to get different results. So let's talk about how shifting you and your perspective, your thoughts, and what you're projecting outwards actually changes a situation, or rather, we're never really changing anyone, but we're changing our perception of them and reselecting. So this isn't actually metaphorical, it's energetic law. Consciousness is one field, and you are it. You are reality, and reality is reflecting you back, in spite of what we might feel or assume. So you're not interacting with people that are separate from you. You're interacting with versions of people that match what you are perceiving from a state, right? A state of consciousness. And so it's usually highlighting something within yourself. You hold every potential version of every person in your personal reality because you hold every potential within you. So when you focus on a specific person or anyone else, right, within your personal reality with a particular assumption, like they're distant or they're inconsistent, or on the flip side, they're obsessed with me, you're actually just selecting a version of them from the infinite field of possibilities that exist, right, through you. And reality is like a hall of mirrors. Imagine it like that, right? Like you're moving through all these different halls, rooms, and then there's reflections of you and what you're aware of. So don't mistake me that if someone is rude to you, that you're a rude person, but you're identified with it in some kind of way, guys. So think of consciousness like your thoughts, beliefs, assumptions determines what's seen of the totality of anything you can experience, which would be like the movie of the universe, life, right? Your life is what you're going to spotlight and experience, right? Materialize in your physical reality, or what you're identifying with is what you're going to get. So if someone seems dismissive, for example, it's not because you're dismissive, but it might be that you're identified with people being dismissive, or that person from like a very subjective sense. Like the way in which you're perceiving them, your thoughts, your interpretation is like you're selecting that version of them, and it aligns with some internal story that you have. So when you shift your focus, and it might seem a little bit far-fetched to you initially, but if you can be a little bit observant and you just say, actually, they're not dismissive at all, they're very, very available to me, loving, caring, whatever it is, you will get that reflected back to you. You've moved into another room, and it's like the mirror will flip for you. So you will get confirmation of the new story. So it isn't about forcing a dismissive perspective of aversion to change. It is just about changing a perspective. Do you understand what I mean? And then it will be reflected back. So everything already exists within you. You're the one that is selecting an experience or how you perceive an experience. Say, for example, you feel that your person's not very consistent. You could easily detach from that perspective and the identification with that and say, actually, they're not dismissive, they're not emotionally unavailable, they're not cold, etc. They're actually very affectionate. There's infinite versions already contained within consciousness, and the outside world has to reorganize itself to mirror your inner state, okay, and what you're identifying with. So because you can identify with anything, your identity is the state and therefore how you're perceiving. So let's talk about something like a text, right? A text that appears dry, dismissive, cold. You may not be so aware of this, but you're very quick to jump to the assumption that, oh, that text, it seems so cold. They're very dismissive, etc. So imagine that same scenario that you see, like where someone texts you and you assume that they're dismissing you or, pulling away or whatever it is. In another state or an identity, you're perceiving it in a completely different way. Those same words could feel playful, neutral, or even affectionate to a totally different version of you, a version of you that's like, I know I got this person, right? The text itself is, the way you're perceiving it is like a reaction and an assumption that you have about how that person feels about you, which is an assumption about self, guys. It's how you're identifying with it. So if you change meanings, even sometimes, guys, it's less subtle than that. It can be quite more dramatic or drastic. And it does work. Like, even if a person is appearing to have not texted you in a really long time, there is some kind of a perception that someone doesn't want to talk to you. For example, you could easily in the now moment perceive that this person's dying to talk to you. And if you just would understand that you can, through just focus and awareness, select that experience, the mirror must reflect you've moved into another room, and the outer must reinforce your perspective, your state, what you're focusing on, what you're aware of. You can do this, you can test it out. So you can shift you, and people will shift with you, okay? So then suddenly you're in a different space. You get that text, or that dry text suddenly seems very soft, or even it could be a drastic change. Suddenly this person is expressing so much love to you and saying all sorts of things that the preferred identity that you have now stepped into, you know, you're associating yourself as someone that's adored by that person. They may very well just very quickly turn around and confirm that. So when you embody a state like I'm loved, chosen, respected, valued, pursued, adored, etc., which should be actually like your core identity anyway, and with respect to that specific person, you've moved into another room altogether anyway. It's nothing to do with the previous one. You're now this version of you. That is the reflection you will see, no matter what circumstances, conditions, etc. Okay, so in order to integrate this, the next time you catch yourself saying something like, and this comes up a lot in my tarot community, they're distant, hot and cold, they don't care, just pause for a moment and ask yourself, who do I believe myself to be? What state am I in? Out of the infinite states, out of the infinite versions of me that I can be. And so why am I perceiving this person as this? And if I perceived myself as a version of me that is loved and cared for, and I perceive this person as loving and caring, and I'm secure within myself, and I can assume that because I get to choose my experience as being the secure, loved version of me, and therefore also get to choose the experience of this person loving me, how would I perceive the text as an example, or how would I perceive the person? So the version of them that adores you already exists in infinite field of consciousness, guys. It's just waiting for you to step into the state of knowing it and perceiving through a different lens, okay, your identity. And so shift the lens and you shift the reflection. The truth is there is no them separate to you. There's only you, okay? And the aspect of yourself that you're choosing to experience through another, right? The law of oneness, or the mirror principle. So everyone is you pushed out the moment you highlight a new aspect of yourself that you already have within you. The aspect of you being adored, loved, chased, pursued, more than enough, chosen, etc. Well, you've highlighted it in them too. Or you've selected the version of them that's going to mirror that back to you. So they have it within them too, guys. So the version of reality and everyone in it that you're experiencing is a choice, and you can make it more effortless just by the knowing that it is actually you making selections, and the selection of who you're being and how you choose to perceive things from an identity. And it becomes much more effortless to perceive people in a certain type of a way, like your assumptions to be in alignment with like the version that you prefer, or for the mirror to be consistent in reflecting back like love, adoration, consistency, loyalty, etc. When you're more in the habit of perceiving yourself, like having that core identity of being the version of you that's safe, secure, loved, adored, respected, etc. But with the backing behind that you're the I am consciousness. So I am that I am. I'm essentially God consciousness that has everything within me, and everyone on the outside is reflecting aspects of me or stories I have about myself. So when I get that story right, with the knowing that it is me that's selecting the story and the identity, then it should be a little bit easier for you to be the version of you that has it exactly what you want, or perceives the outside and is aware of the outside delivering to you what you prefer, right? So the mirror will flip. You're also going to have a very different way of interpreting the outside. Although, guys, the outside is always following identity. I mean, that's why people do say like the 3D lags. Doesn't have to be a long lag, but it follows identity. So in the case of, say, what we said before, a text that seems dry, it's followed an identity where you have some kind of thoughts or assumptions or an association or a perspective that that person pulls away or is not loving you, and that's an aspect of self that feels a certain way about self. And then to select an identity where you feel very loved, adored, chosen, etc., well, the outside's going to follow that. So the perception, the identity first, the outer reshaping and reworking itself. So all you need to do is persist in perceiving yourself in a certain type of a way, and therefore sticking to your assumption, what you're projecting about like how the outer world must reflect that back to you. Okay, hope that made sense, guys. Let me know in the comments. And otherwise, also, guys, you can check out my course Shifted. The link is in the description box of the video. I take you through all of the components of what is manifesting, because we're doing it anyway, even in the case of the dry text versus the warm, consistent, loving, blowing up your phone version of your SP. We're doing it anyway, but I teach you about conscious and deliberate manifesting. I teach you actually about identity transformation, God consciousness, so the ultimate I am, and then the identity of you that feels safe and secure, or even like the best possible version that you would like to select for yourself, the lens that you would prefer to see your experience through, and being consistent with that, and then how you can then rework through that any dynamic with any person, including a specific person, no matter what the circumstances, conditions, or whatever was perceived from a previous identity. So check out my course Shifted if you're interested. I'm sending you guys so much love, and I will check in with you soon.